Diego.
Hey. How's it going, everyone?
Hey, what's up? Good to see you.
Likewise. How you doing?
Very good. We're just in Kuala Lumpur,
Oh, really?
in Malaysia. Yeah,
Nice, man. How is it? Is it hot over there or
hot and humid, big city. But yeah, pretty cool. Civilization again. We were on an island for a couple of weeks, so
Oh, got it. Cool, man. Awesome to have you here. All right, let's
Yeah.
see. So Julian, Luke, Florian, the OG from the Netherlands. What is good, brother? All right. And Lucian, of course, too. Cool.
Good to see you, bro.
Good to see you too, guys. All right, I'm just gonna give it a minute. And as most of you have seen, what I'm gonna be doing on this hot seat session first is basically a breakdown of what has been really working incredibly well for us. My second company is on pace to grow with another 40% compared to last month, and just basically consistently grow from there because of the new sales process we've implemented. So what I'm going to be covering is how we're getting the lead flow, how we're getting the traffic essentially with that, what we're doing for marketing, and then also DMs, our pre-qualifying people, and then essentially also our sales process. Because, in the B2C space, it's very different than B2B. In the B2B space, when you're consulting, I work with a business owner, right? And business owners make decisions based on value and logic. And people in the B2C space are a lot more emotional and don't have, $50,000 to $100,000 in their bank. And especially if you're pushing cold traffic to your channels or IG or whatever it is, it requires a very different approach. So that's what I'm going to be covering today. Let me just see if there's anyone else in the waiting room. And if not, I'm going to go ahead and get this party started. Okay, looks like we're all good. Okay. So I'm just going to prepare some notes here. So who here is doing Instagram shoutouts? Let me know in the Zoom chat if you're doing Instagram shoutouts. Just type yes or no. I'm just going to prepare the topics. So we're going to cover lead flow, traffic, DMs. Involved that we're going to cover content. And then also sales process. Okay. All right, let's see. Yep, Marcus doing IG shoutouts, awesome. Julian too. Header no. Luke yes. Yeah, I think almost. Let me check the room. Yeah, I think almost everyone's doing shoutouts here actually. Almost. All right, submitting shout as well. Do you guys hear any background noise before I dive into it? Just let me know in the Zoom chat. We're good, all good. Okay, awesome. Good stuff. All right, we still have people joining, so I'm just waiting. Okay. So I'm also going to be covering some topics that some of you may already know, but I just want to make sure I get the full scope of this because, I could cover the IG content and the DM sales process, but without the lead flow and traffic, it just doesn't work, right? So I'm just going to cover everything from A to Z. It's probably going to take me 20 to 30 minutes. And then if you guys have any questions, just save them from the end and then we can take it from there. Okay, awesome. All right, so gonna share my screen. And people are also going to watch the replay. So what I'm going to be doing is actually first cover the basics and ask you guys what you think of certain things and get you involved and really get an idea of what you think it costs to get this, traffic channel going. So if I go to this page, right? And chat header, I believe you guys are not using IG shoutouts. I'd like to ask you, what do you think it costs to get on a page like this? 1.4 million followers. There's let me see how many likes. You can't see the likes. Anyway, like I know this page averages like about 10 to 20,000 likes on good posts, and that's like kind of what you're able to get if you get a feed post for 24 hours. 1.4 million followers, a lot of reach. What do you think it costs to get on here if you want to like do a post for yourself?
Like 1,000 to 2,000.
Oh, here we got the answer. Sorry, I didn't see them. Chat says 1,000 to 2,000. Chris 2,000. Marcus 1K. Julian 150 to 250. So you can actually get on this page for $50, right? And it is quite insane because you have hundreds of these pages. Even Chris is what the F. And Chris, like I know you use shout outs too. Yeah, so we've grown 29,000 followers over the last 30 days, which equates to 920 followers per day. And you can do two things with Instagram. You can optimize for engagement or you can optimize for booked meetings. And I'll answer your question at the end of the presentation, Chris. Yes, pretty much we've been booking. I just also checked the numbers there. How many sales calls do you guys think we've booked from Monday to Friday? And we've grown, 29,000 followers over the last 30 days. What do you think we booked just this week from Monday to Friday? Just take a guess in the chat. 250, 100, 100, 150. We booked 300 sales calls so far from Monday to today, and it's 2 p.m. my time. So we're pacing for booking 350 sales calls. Yeah, super crazy. And getting started on IG, you can do it in a couple of ways, right? And yeah, there's a lot of potential. And before I dive into that, let me also show you my inbox, the kind of the operations, what's happening in there. Because as you can imagine, with all the inbound we get on a consistent basis from like shout outs and all the good stuff and your content marketing, we have 4 appointment setters, 24-hour coverage. So we got 2 setters, one in primary, one in general. One works, daytime. So 2 work daytime at the same time, one primary, one general. And then also for the daytime setters, and we have the nighttime setters come in once they're asleep. So we have about 1,000 conversations happening a day. And that's like how we're booking that amount of calls. About 70% comes from the inbox. The rest comes from like link in bio, email, all that good stuff. But this is not the hard part. This is the easy part, right? Because when you can get a lot of traffic and you understand the setting game, kind of like we teach it, and you've got good setters, that becomes the easy part. The hard part is the sales process, because, if you do 1 call closes and you're booking 300 sales calls a week, you're booked out for like the next 2 to 3 months, right? And so we had that. And of course, we didn't like allow people to book out 2 to 3 months out, but we did for like a week, and we'd always be full. But then the metrics were terrible of sales, right? Our no-show rate will be like super high. People will be like coming on a call. Yeah, I just saw a quote from Bass and, it looked cool. So, that's why I'm on this call. Or I don't know what high ticket setting is. And we scratched our head because we were like, well, when we're in consulting, where we're doing, $500,000 a month, the sales process we have is working great. And then I realized that we're just working with a lot of cold traffic here, which we were like, oh shit, that does suck. But it doesn't have to if you know how to dial in a good sales process, right? So what we're doing is triage calls. right? And I'm going to break that down fully. And I'm going to answer all your questions, and you can even get like hands-on training inside of the mastermind because you're a part of it from like, Paulo, who's actually led the sales division over at appointmentcenter.com. But first I'm going to explain everything, right? And I'm just going to keep everything high level. So I'm going to dive into content in just a little bit. I'm going to dive into DMs actually right now, because that comes before the sales process. And we're just going to cover that first. So when it comes down to these 4 parts, this is where it all begins. This is very helpful to, like, of course, build your brand. People are going to trust you and all that stuff, right? Like, I'm sure we're all aware of that, but the hard part is actually DMs, because if you're going to push, per set or 20 calls per day, like, we need to make sure that they have, like, that they come from a first world country, right? And what do you do when they say they only have 0 budget, right? So like, we've created all these SOPs, we've tested so many, and I'm going to share with you what's working really well for us, and what we're basically looking at when it comes down to booking calls on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to go to our workspace, show you basically what we look at. But when it comes down to the DMs, and we've got different scripts, and George can help you guys with this because we've got everything noted down on Google Docs, on Miro. We've got like actual frameworks that we can share with you. And I'm just going to take one conversation as an example. So let me just see. Just go to a conversation that is ongoing. Okay, this one looks okay. Okay, so setter is booking a live meeting. Okay, so this is a great example. And what we do when people reach out, we basically ask them very subtly, where do you live, right? Because if they're from a first world country, what we do is we basically then go into explaining what high ticket setting is about. And then, we've got like a shortcut. If you type in like, SC on your phone, like it'll blast out this whole 4 or 5 paragraph, and we can just, save a bunch of time and just explain to people what it is about. Because again, cold traffic, a lot of people are like new to this opportunity. And he was like, oh, hell yeah, which is good. And then from there, first world country, interesting opportunity. Now we book him in for a call, right? And then here you can see, we've just sent over the calendar. But before I kind of like break down the calendar and why we set it the way we have, and guys, you're maybe going to miss a couple of these things, but you can just catch the replay because I'm going to be going quite fast just to make sure that, I'm breaking all of this down properly. But yeah, so like, let's say this person would be from a third world country. What we do instead is we basically still go into like country pre-qualification, explain concept, and then immediately budget qualification, right? Because we found that like 8 out of 10 people from third world countries just don't have the money. And in first world countries, especially like the US, there's just like a lot of possibilities, right? Like also Europe, certain parts in Asia, Australia, New Zealand, like, we basically work with people worldwide, in case you didn't know that either. But yeah, mainly in English market. So those are the 2 kind of like streams that we have in the DMs. So first world country, third world country, and that's the approach we have. And let's say the third world country person says, yep, I do have like, 5,000 in my savings or 1,000, or I'm resourceful. Then you book them in. If they have like $100, then we just say, hey, let's hold off. I join my free community right here. And then you can like, just join some like-minded people, get some free value, and that's it, right? So that's how we do it in the DMs. And then here, so this is to the triage call, right? This is not 45 minutes. And basically what we have, just to show you all, and if you don't have this for your sales team, let me just show you this real quickly. You can go to, what's very helpful for me as a business owner is having oversight of my sales team, their calendars, right? So here I can see, how many calls my triage guy has set up for the day. And here I can see it too, right? So you can see these guys are stacked, like really stacked. And the thing is, the way a triage, now they're taking 20 calls a day per person. But if you were to take 20 plus 22 people and they just do 1 call closes, you now have the efficiency of doing what you do in 5 to 6 days in 1 day. And you just get rid of all the no-shows, all the tire kickers, and just get the good calls from the triage to the closers. And we found out our average conversion rate from triage to closer is about 40 to 50%, meaning after the 50-minute call, we book about 40 to 50% of those calls through the closers calendar. Right now, we've got 3 closers. So you can do the math. We can basically book these closers out with 2 triage guys, right? Because each closer can take 6 calls. And that way you have now a filtration system, right? So the DMs, solid, right? Triage, solid. And, I'm not going to explain exactly what we do in the DMs very in depth and the triage and the closing now, because that's a topic we can cover after this session, or you guys can ask George or Paulo. But just understanding the high level view of what we're doing here is the most important thing. And so you now have like what I like to call, and actually what I got from Bill Walsh, who's also in a Mastermind, amazing sales trainer, a filtration system, right? So now it's not, okay, I saw Bass, cool quotes, supermarket guy. Let me book a 1-hour call. Wait, what? 6,000 course? I don't even know who you are. I don't even know what the opportunity is about. And you can see like how much nuance is missed with the wrong pre-framing and with the wrong sales process in place for cold traffic. And again, the B2B, B2C difference is big too, right? Like the B2B is like, Bass, can you help me solve my problem? Or chat, right? Like you work with real estate investors. Okay, here's 50K, right? And they expect a result. You can help them get that. Now, someone from B2C that's making 2 to 3K a month, making the 6K offer, that's a very emotional decision. Not everyone's, super emotional, but it's a more emotional decision because people want freedom, right? And so it feels as if they're giving literally the whole bank account. And so you can't just have like a wacky sales process. You need something in place that's tight and hits all the points and handles all the objectives before it even happens, right? So now going back to the questions here. So these are questions for the triage people. And the most important questions are, what do you do for a living, right? Because if we see someone is from first world country and they're a student, no income, and they have 0 budget, we do pre-qualify those people, even if from first world country. Because if you're an adult and you live on your own, mostly what we've seen is those people are resourceful, right? Because they have savings, they can leverage the government or friends and family. But students, like, we've just not had the best success with, right? So this is a very helpful question. Of course, the IG handle to remind them for their call, making sure all the decision makers are on the call as well. Budget question. And you can see too, it's a very nuanced sales process and it's very contextualized. And that's why you need a tight sales process, good SOPs, and good salespeople. Because you can see how many things I'm explaining on this session, you should do this if this happens. And if this happens, you should do this. And there's no way you're going to memorize that. Like in a B2B, it's just okay, if you've got $100 pre-qualify, yeah, you need at least 10K, man. Oh, you only have 200? Sorry, can't do it, right? It's very, very different. And so that's come more and more to my understanding. And so that's why we're also growing so heavily on the appointmentsetter.com side, because we're really grasping that it's a very different sales process and adjusting ourselves to that. So budget question. And we frame these questions quite direct, right? Quite direct to make sure we're not having tire kickers. And you can see them right here. Basically, explain to people that we have a lot of people reach out to us and we want to make sure they double check their calendar before they book in this appointment, that we can make it. And it's either yep, or no, I'm going to disqualify myself. And here as well, last one. And this is actually the next thing I'm going to explain. Here we ask that there's one video that we wanted to watch and they can do it. And it's the same thing, yep, I'll watch the video or no, I'll disqualify myself, right? Then they book the call. Another thing, we don't allow them to book out further than 2 days, right? So today is Friday, we don't allow them to book out to Sunday, right? And that's it. So now moving on. So here we, as you can see, is our redirect page. So once they're booked, they come onto this page. And you see here in big letters, and they'll see that too, is we're not done yet. Your meeting may be canceled. Complete these 3 steps to lock your time with my team. So step 1, watch this 14-minute video down below. No, this is not the exact same video that I have on appointmentsetter.com. This is a separate one. This is purely nurturing. And I'll give you guys the topics just so you can, catch that. You can also have a copy of the presentation, but I'll cover it in a bit. So step 2, watch the FAQ section at the bottom of this page and reply yes in the confirmation email we just sent you. The reason why we do this is because we want to handle as many questions and as many objections as we can humanly possible upfront and also earn their trust. Because we explain why this works, who I am, why they should trust us, why this is the best opportunity, because that's what you're doing in the biz up space, right? Like you got Amazon FBA, you got closing, it's like you got to sell the person like why this is the best opportunity. And that's also what the video covers. So the video basically covers the following. It covers quick house rules, right? What is high ticket setting? How can you make money with it? My story, right? Where are you even buying from? And then what is this opportunity like really about? Like, what is the mission? And then you have some testimonials. And I actually forgot to cover one thing. Step 3, the reason like why we wanted to reply yes is because we wanted to watch the video. And if they don't reply yes, we'll cancel the meeting. Like if they don't do it 24 hours before the meeting, we'll cancel it. And the reason being is because if they haven't watched the video, the call is going to go nowhere, right? So once they reply yes, we basically ask them, have you watched the video? If they say no, then we basically ask them to do it before the call. And otherwise we just reschedule, right? So moving on, testimonials, some tips on how to get the most out of their time with my team. What is the program about? Right? And can you see the difference from like cold traffic to Calendly? Right, guys, let me know in the chat. Can you see the difference if you have a tight sales process in place versus a one call close? Let me know in the chat. And then here we have some more FAQs. And then lastly, if they have like any final questions, they could just send me a message, right? On Facebook or on IG. And then what happens? Yep, makes sense. Yes, yes. Awesome. Yeah. It's been a game changer for us. Big game changer. At this point, it becomes a numbers game instead of like an unstructured, chaotic, too simplistic sales process. It works with B2B, but again, B2C just requires a different approach. And like, I know there's the cliche of people to people, and yes, it's people to people, but again, help like categorizing certain avatars does definitely help, Is this for a 50-minute call, Bastiaan, a triage call? Yep, it is. And then right here, you can see it's the 15-minute call, and then they just knock it out. And then the goal is to, on the call, ask them a couple questions, and the triage questions you guys have like about how to conduct it. Just save that for after this session, because we can just send you resources and trainings. Because quite frankly, like I just have my sales manager run it and create it, and I just get feedback. So I can really tell you exactly what we do, but here's an idea of what we do. It's a 15-minute call. Make sure they've got enough time commitment to actually be a setter. Because for example, if we place a setter with you guys, we don't want someone to think it's like a 2-hour per day and, I'll like I'm out with my friends, like that just be weird, right? Like, so we do make sure that these people are like serious, and can commit the time. And if they start part-time, that they actually can go full-time. And this is very different per offer, right? So this really depends on your offer, what you're going to ask on the call. And then at the end, we give them the investment rate. And we also get like an idea of their income. And then if all that looks good, we book them into the closers calendar, right? So that's the 40-50% I was basically referencing to about 10 to 15 minutes ago. And then is the closing call. And then you have to sell. So with all that being said, guys, let's dive into some questions now. So if you got a question, just type a 1. Or actually, instead of that, sorry, just write out your question, because otherwise we're going to have too many follow-up questions. And I just want to make sure everyone is helped. So just drop your question in the Zoom chat, and then I'll cover it. And we can still cover this after the questions. Okay, questions. So what are the skills you look for in triage taker? Okay, so I'm going to start with the first one. So a triage setter, like they can be less qualified than a high ticket closer, because the main thing that they do is just pre-qualifying. They're not selling. So what is just important is that like they are hardworking, because you're taking 20 calls per day, right? They have to be available for 8 hours a day. And they have to be a people's person as well, because talking to 20 people per day, you definitely don't want like, you know, an introvert on the call. So I'd say like those are the main things, but more in depth, like I'm happy to shoot you over a sheet and like really exactly show you what I would look for in a triage taker. Okay, I'm just going to copy the questions just so I'm efficient here. Okay. So would the triage calls, would you still do that even if you don't have as much volume yet? Yes, I would. And you can just do this with one closer, right? For example, I had Paulo who took like 12 triage calls a day, and then he had the capacity for like 3-4 closing calls on the same day. Right. So if you have like 1 or 2 people, you can do this particular dynamic, but make sure like they're as good as a closer would be. And then they're basically just booking in their own sales calls. So the appointment setting to triage call is fairly short. Just explain this model and country. Yes. Now I'm going to contextualize this, right? Because right now we're booking 70 calls per day. And so when you're booking 70 calls per day, you don't have the capacity. You could, but it would be very complex operationally to like send 70 pre-qualification messages out and then get an answer to it on a timely manner. It just causes too much efficiency. So like we sacrificed the budget SOP after, you know, booking 50 calls per day. So if you're under 20 calls per day, I would still do it. But otherwise, at one point, like it becomes, you know, it takes too much capacity from your setters. Okay, so next question. How do you set appointments with 4 setters 24 hours when action on IG is limited to 25 per hour with Creator Studio? So to be honest, like the thing with restrictions and all that stuff, like I think it's very different per account. Like I believe that the main factor is number 1, making sure you reach out to existing followers, you prioritize inbound, existing combos, and the age of your account. If you do outbound and you reach out to people that don't follow you and your account's new, like Instagram is going to be like, well, what's the, you know, crazy activity on this account? It just got created like a couple of weeks ago. So for us, we're not having any problems with it. We may, because don't get me wrong, it's not normal to have 1,000 conversations per day, but we're very, very aware of like, you know, what we should focus on, what we shouldn't focus on. Can you not get the setters to ask them if they watched the video when Zoom checking them instead of the email? Another platform seems like adding complexity. You could. For us, like we've already dialed it in. So I'd say like if you want to like just keep it on one platform, that's definitely possible. The point is just like you want to make sure that they watch the video, and it's more like actually the closers that get in touch, right? That's why we do email with the lead, because the setter like doesn't take it from here. It's the closer now, right? And the closer wants to make sure, or the triage taker wants to make sure that they're going to be talking to someone qualified. And I don't want my triage guy to be in my DMs, because then I'm going to have like, you know, 8 people quite soon in my inbox, and that's going to be bannable for sure. So let me just add this question. Yeah, I'm just adding questions so everyone can watch this back on the replay.
Can I follow up on that question, brother, Bastiaan?
Yeah, sure.
On the so essentially the triage taker emails the person, or is it an automated email? Like, is it not centralized in a single?
If it's manual or automated, I wouldn't know. My teams put this in place, but I assume it will be automated.
Okay, but then the triage taker is looking out for the yes response from their guy, right? Like they're probably searching it up on the email platform.
It's mandatory and it's very helpful for them. So they definitely do make sure, not just for the company, but also for themselves, to make sure that, you know, someone responds to yes prior to the email. That like we also then check, hey, have you watched the video? And if they have, then, you know, continuing the call.
Awesome value, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, man. Okay. What do triage closers do ask about on a call for to qualify, and how are they paid? Yeah, it's a good question. So we pay our triage guys $1,000 per month, and then also 5% commission on if the sale closes. I pay one of my guys $2K per month because he's just a beast and I wanted to become a leader. But generally that's what you pay a triage closer. And then what they ask and do, it really depends, right? Like, so for example, Chris, like what we ask is how much time can you commit? Right? Because again, we don't want an appointment setter that can only work 1 to 2 hours a day because they're not going to make any money and the business owner is going to be unhappy. We asked them, what does your job bring you in monthly? Right? Why do you want to become a setter? And then most importantly, we also make them aware of the investment range and make sure they're okay with that. We don't say the price. We just give them the range. So that's it. And if you guys want, I'll make sure that I get a triage script just shared in like the CLM channel, because that will just be more valuable to you guys. But this is like generally what we cover on the call. Okay, how much do you recompensate the triage taker? Yeah, so kind of like what I just said. So that would be $1,000 per month, and 5% commission. If you're still not doing cold traffic, does it make sense to implement the sales process? That's a really good question. To be honest, I can't tell because I haven't got that experience. Right, it's kind of my answer, but I'll probably still do it because you just have like way too many. Like Jamie, your following is huge. Your inbox is like crazy. I do still believe this would serve in terms of capacity and what you can take. Because again, if you realize what your closing team could get done in a day, like 40 calls versus like doing 40 calls over 5 to 6 days, you actually condense and compress time, and with that get way more results for your business by just plucking out like, the serious people and getting them on a closing call. So I would still say yes, but it comes down to testing. How much are you spending on IG shoutouts to get this much traffic? Yeah, so this month we're actually spending $23,000. Last month we spent 9,000. Next month I want to spend 40. But only if, we have the capacity for calls. But we're planning on like really just increasing it with that every month. Wow, guys, I love the questions. I could just like keep scrolling here. Let me just paste this. Oh, wait. Okay, next question. So running into a few problems with 2 setters on my IG, couldn't create a thread action blocks in IG. We're very aware of no overlap of cold messages. So at that point, if that happens, I will most likely just switch over to existing conversations. So existing conversations, and not like, even with followers, I wouldn't even create a new one. I would just focus on existing conversations. We have it too on Facebook, like whenever we do the group request, and even if we're friends with that person and we like send something out, but we've had no previous conversation, it starts to like, pop up with that red mark. So what we then do instead, once that pops up, is just switch back to like existing conversations that we've had. And then at that point, like we do not have that block. So I would do the same thing on IG. How are you able to keep the triage calls to only 15 minutes and not going over time? It's just like, they just have 50 minutes and they have to make it happen kind of thing. It's a very blunt answer, but they do run over from time to time, but very rarely, right? Because the structure is like just a couple of key points. They hit it out of the park. They try to make it personal, but also like set the expectation like, hey, we just have 50 minutes here. And then like, they just do the call, right? Then if they do run over time, they notify the setters in the channel. Setters will reach out to the person, and our setters response time is like 1 or 2 minutes, right? So like, it's very, very efficient operationally. And you just need good people to, of course, to make this work really, really well. Okay, cool. How are you identifying the pages you're using for shoutouts? So when it comes down to the pages, we like there's just a couple of key things you want to look for. Like you've got different teams, right? You've got stoic pages, you've got like masculine pages, you got female pages, you've got entrepreneur pages, and like you want to understand where your ideal client hangs out or is hanging out, right? The thing with IG shoutouts is like that it's not just one client you're going to be attracting. Like you're going to literally attract so many different people, but mainly people like that are in a job, like 9-to-5ers, beginners, some investors, but mainly like 9-to-5ers and beginners is what you'll find. And that's why it's so powerful for B2C. And, so through teams, you can identify good pages, number one. And second, you want to like look at audience insights, right? Like right now, we're getting about 43% US audience on our IG. And a big mistake or big pitfall to avoid is, you know, not like you don't want to get on a page with 20, like I'd say even above 15% Indian audience, 12.5% audience is just not where to be on. If you guys want, because you're in a mastermind, I can share the pages I'm on, but please do not share this anywhere. I didn't even share this in my elite program. Because again, we don't have like thousands of people in a mastermind. Because the thing is, like, if everyone's going to use the same page, the cost per follower is going to go from 50 cents to $10 for everyone, and everyone kind of like, you know, it's a lose-lose situation. So if you guys want a page, just hit me up and I can hook you guys up with what we use. Okay. What are some of the resources elite is send up until their closing call after triage? Yeah, that's a good question. So they pretty much, actually, there's no resources because all the pre-qualifying like really happens prior to the triage, during the triage, and the closing call, like they should just be ready to go. Could be that my sales managers implemented something in between, but that wouldn't be something that's in my awareness. No. Let me just make sure I'm copying the questions.
There's still Zoom check, right, Bastiaan? Like the setter comes in and they Zoom check them for their time and stuff.
Oh yeah, in that regard, they do remind them for the call, but there's no further nurturing being done. Yeah. 40K in shout outs to make how much with appointment setter? So we haven't spent 40K yet, but I project like we could do 250, 300K cash collected. Like the thing is, X5, X10, X, like those ROIs don't matter. Because if you look at Bashar, for example, who's spending 600 to 700K on shoutouts and returning 2 million cash, it's only a X2 ROI. But because it's so much money, like the profit is insane, right? And so like that's more what we're optimizing for. So when we're like looking at shoutouts, you know, we only increased if we can handle the sales capacity. And right now, like we need more triage guys before we can like up the spend. And then once we have up the spend, we've got actual metrics, like I'll share it with you guys what it exactly is. Okay, cool. Where would you suggest we start out with the budget for shoutouts? So first thing, like I wouldn't recommend you you run your own shoutouts. I recommend you get an in-house manager, or you actually get someone that's an agency owner, right? So either an agency or in-house. I've got in-house. I used to have agency for like 2 years. And that was great. And I could recommend you 2 people, Jeremy Nick Moser or Nick van Poskuylen. Jeremy is very premium. Yeah, very, very premium. Nick is great. He's like more the, you know, Jeremy version before he blew up. And then you've got in-house, right? So I personally have in-house, and the reason why is because innovation is faster, response is faster, and you just grow with that essentially faster because it's someone that's solely dedicated to you and your brand, right? And that's what we want.
Hey, Bas, can you repeat those names or else write them on the sheet there? Because I only caught one of them.
Yeah, of course, better.
Nick Mosier, I didn't catch the second one.
Yeah.
Nick, okay. Cool, I appreciate it.
Yes, no worries. So yeah, that's what I recommend, because if you do shout outs yourself, then you're going to be on canva.com and making creatives and coming up with captions and sorting logistics with pages and doing that like with 40, 50 pages. And that's just like a full-time job on itself. So I recommend, if you guys want to do this, first just speak to me. I'll give you like my honest recommendation based on your offer, capital you can deploy, on whether, you know, you should do it or not.
Do the agencies come up with the copy then, and like what sort of creatives that we should use is what you're saying? They'll create them, they'll come up with the ideas, or what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what the agencies do, and the in-house manager too. So pretty much like my, you know, this is done for me. My copy is done for me. You know, the traffic is done for me. So, you know, like this, this entire creative was done for me and posted. And you need experience with this too, because it needs to convert from impressions to followers. And that's what, you know, the agencies and in-house people are like specialized with. So yeah, they do that. And then I've of course got my setters doing this for me. So like it's almost fully outsourced. The only thing I do at the moment, which I may outsource in the near future, is my stories. And that's it. Okay. You have two setters on Facebook, different time zones, I'm guessing. No, I just have one. Facebook is very strict compared to IG. So we just have one elite setter on there. So really, really good one. But yeah, on Instagram, it's 4 setters. It's just like a lot more flexible. You know, if you've got 2 on Facebook, you'll get restricted very, very fast. Okay, so let's go to the next one.
Sorry, Bastiaan, could you repeat that, please? Because I was writing down some.
Yeah, no worries. I was basically saying that I wouldn't recommend 2 because Facebook is just way stricter when it comes down to like amount of messages you can send out. So I would just have 1 setter on Facebook. If you do want to have more setters, I'd probably just have people on their own profile. And then like, you know, basically setting up their profile under your company like name with the cover photo, the bio. But I wouldn't like have 2 setters in your inbox because you'll just get banned in terms of like outreach very, very fast. All right. When the first shift of DM setters ends and the night shift setters take over, do they just continue the existing combos that were left in order to advance it and book the call, or do they not touch until the next day? It's a good question. So at the moment, we use Business Suite, and Business Suite gives you the ability to tag leads on Instagram. So basically every setter has her own lead, but Business Suite is very inefficient. So we're looking for a new platform, which is maybe going to be ManyChat, but at the moment that's what we use. Okay. Let me just copy this. All right. So I have the same issue. People book in 1-hour calls and then are not serious, and I'm the one taking the sales call. You think I should split up my calls hours to your ratio? Like, yeah, I would recommend that. Like for anyone that is in the B2C space, pushing cold traffic, like this is a sales process I can vouch for. Number one, because we're growing very rapidly since implementing it and having the right team dynamic. And when I say dynamic, I pretty much mean like, you know, having 4 DM setters, having 3 triage and having 3 closers. Because if you like have 1 triage guy, like your closers are not going to be filled, right? So I can definitely vouch for that. And I would recommend it if you're doing IG shoutouts, you know, and you're also doing full traffic. A lot to see the pages. Yep. Just send me a message on Slack and I'll rock that over to you, my friend. Just so I understand, so what exactly is the purpose of the triage calls? Could you not get the most qualifying info from messages and account lead questions? You could theoretically, but practically you'll see the mistakes pop up, like incredibly high no-show rate, people not being nurtured enough, people lying on their application form, people not showing up, like, and then there's like 10 more of those kind of things that could happen. So having a qualifier in between, so you're not booked out for the week with like 10% good leads and 90 crappy leads, instead just having like triage, knocking all those leads out in one day and just like stacking the qualified leads with the closures, in my opinion, is the best way to do it. And also my experience with the B2C side. Have you tried to?
Sorry. So just with that, so let's say like you have the triage call with them. How far advanced and do you book the follow-up call? Is it like as soon as possible when they're ready to take the next call?
That's a good question. Yeah, as soon as possible. We try to like just do it on the same day, if not, you know, another day. Like, of course, we can force people if like they already have something, but our focus when we book that in is like to do it either for the same day or the day after.
Yeah, because I was thinking, because then you'd probably have a bit of a drop off as well. It's still between the calls as well.
Yeah, like, you know, it's in the nature of like if people book out just way too far out, like a week or, you know, 3-4 days, the no-show rate just, you know, drastically. Yeah.
And so do you send them anything after the triage call as well to further nurture them? Because, you know, you said one of the issues was that it was a lot of cold traffic, but is that not really, is it going to really warm them up that much for a 15-minute call from someone?
Yeah, like if we make it mandatory for them to watch the video, plus like, they watch it before they even book the triage, plus they do the triage itself, that for us has been doing the trick. And maybe that we're going to optimize it further and definitely add to it, because by no means am I perfect with this process, but we've definitely laid a good foundation. But at the moment, that's what's working well for us.
Yeah, makes sense. Thanks.
Yep, no worries. Have you tried to use this to sell low ticket offers, $7 setter training, etc.? Maybe we could sell challenge tickets or my book. I have not. No, I've not done that. However, I think with the amount of traffic you can push, it could work, but it also depends on, you know, your avatar, because if it's more B2B, I would just recommend Facebook and IG ads. You know, for Minter Consulting, our client acquisition process is very different right now than Appointment Setter, right? Appointment Setter is just paid shoutouts, and then Minter Consulting is Facebook, IG ads. Like B2B, no one comments on your mission post anymore or your promo cycle, you know? But in the B2C, that does still happen. So if you want to sell something low ticket, it depends if it's B2C or B2B. That's what, like, you know, based upon which one you're in, I can recommend a specific client acquisition process. I want to keep my feed with a little more personal life stuff, reels and Twitter threads only every once in a while. They're just to make it threads only. Suits my brand image better. What's your opinion on doing the threads purely for ads and obviously going hard and only posting the best ones only on my main page? If you don't think it'll be as effective, I'm thinking of creating a separate IG page for it. So Jamie, you can unmute yourself. So basically what you're saying is you would only post the threads on your feed too. That would perform well, but the rest is going to be like more brand value.
Yeah.
Brand,
So
right?
so what I'm thinking, you know, from working with Jeremy, right, is that some of the threads that they create, although they might work well for, you know, the sort of cold audience, beginner type of person that we're going for, I find them a little bit cringy. And, you know, obviously they work, but I don't want them on my main page, because I also want to have a good share, a good like kind of split of content between personal stuff, maybe a little bit of lifestyle,
Yeah.
the reels, which I'm, you know, very good at, and then a thread here, you know, here and there. So
yeah.
I don't post every single thread that they create. I just tell them like, run it as an ad. And if I genuinely like it and I don't see it as cringy, I'll post it on my main feed. But I'm not sure if that's like, you know, obviously slowing down the effectiveness of the strategy, because I'm guessing that if they do see that sort of content from you on the ad, then you have more congruence when they jump on the page and they're like, okay, I followed this guy for that type of content. Like I saw that content, I liked it. Then I go on his page and it's the same sort of content. Boom, you get more congruence. You get more like you know, what they essentially see what they're expecting, right? So yeah, I'm not sure if I just have to kind of put that brand image aside and post a lot more threads that I'm running as ads, or maybe create an IG page, or just take the hit and
yeah. I mean, I think simple answer is yes, you can do that. But for me personally, as like I want to, you know, just book my reps out, I optimize my content for meetings, right? So man, like I literally have the most ugly reels you can imagine, but they do get me inbound, right? And it's also like just to create top of mind. So here's kind of what I do, right? So I will do a thread and a reel. Both will contain a call to action. The reel will not, only in the copy. And if we're booked out, like the calendar's healthy, I'll just go pure brand value, right? And then try to like just stay full with evergreen. But if we need more meetings, I'll just like, you know, do more call to actions. That's personally how I do it. So it really depends upon your preference. There's truly no right or wrong way to do it. But if you want to like optimize for the business as well, that's what I would recommend, kind of the way I'm doing it.
Yeah, I'm guessing like I'm still attached to the engagement of my IG, right? Because you've essentially said, okay, I'm going to sacrifice engagement and I'm going to optimize for private selling and backend. But I'm still like, I don't know. I guess it's hard for me to let that go, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could also make a separate page, could be an option. I actually see a lot of people do that, like make a specific reel page, for example.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
So honestly,
because I'm gonna be creating different pages to distribute my reels, right? So I'm just thinking I'll take one of these pages, I'll just give it a bit of a different name, and then I'll just do all the threads there and maybe drive all the traffic there. But yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
But I guess what would be then the main purpose of your Instagram? Is it just like, you know, have a main page? Or because I mean,
yeah,
it's
I guess you know, part of my IG is just like you know, I you know, meeting cool people and like, I don't know, brand building and stuff. Like I go harder on obviously the Facebook content. I don't know. I have to kind of
just give it thought, man. Like
Yeah.
you need to rush the decision. I think that, you know, a lot of people do it. Like Andrew Tate, for example, he literally just had cars on his page, and he still got banned for some reason. But besides the point, like, you know, he had like hundreds of different pages, right, with like reels and about his
Well,
hustle.
you have two. You even have two, right? You have one for like, I mean, you have two Bastiaan install pages.
Yeah, but both are just optimized for meetings, man. Like I
Right,
like
right. But
like, sorry, go
but
ahead.
if I said like if I had one that wasn't that was still optimized for like it's getting us a lot of meetings, right? But then another one that was more kind of like a just post as much every single day, don't care about engagement type of page, and the other one more like engagement focus. I think Andrew Tate even had this, like he had his personal one, and then he had his business one. He had like Andrew Tate one, and then corporate Tate, and then corporate Tate was like his business, and then in his description he would put like corporate Tate for business. And I think he did that because I don't know. I mean, he still want to get like he still wants to get like DMs from like people,
Yeah, models and
stuff, right?
yeah.
And, you know,
I
girls.
mean,
and
that's what I saw on social media, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you could do that. There's no right or wrong way. I think like just the low hanging fruit, the most optimal way, if like you really truly want to optimize for like meetings in the business, would be like just your main page. But if you want to maintain more brand image, reputation, brand value, you could, then I would do the separate page, right? Because otherwise you're always going to be torn between the two, because you're doing one thing that you don't want to do on a page, and it's like just going to be a lot of, well, consistent conflict, right? So I probably just then create two separate pages, one for just purely optimized for book meetings and growth, and the other one just for, you know, brand value, and that's it.
Right.
But just give it some thought. There's no need to rush it. Because
Because the final question, thanks for your
yeah, of
time.
course.
Final question is because you're posting twice a day, right? Or even 3 times a day on the
Yeah.
Instagram page.
Yeah. That's correct. I post twice a day on email. I post twice a day on IG, the feed. I post twice a day on Facebook. Yeah, and then also like twice on stories. So like usually what I'll do is just a story sequence with like a fun little story, and then a couple hours later a link to the free training. So it's like super optimized for just book meetings.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yep, no worries. All right, team. Did you like today's presentation? I'm just curious, because if you did, I can do more of these types of trainings. Just, you know, pick a topic and teach you guys about something that, you know, is working well for us in the business. Loved it. Yeah, man. It's good. Loved it. Awesome. Fire. You guys are amazing. Lots to think about. Yep. Luke, I would tag Paulo, and he can go ahead and share that with you. Very much, brother, and great question, everyone. Yeah, these were really good questions. Really awesome. All right, then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so we can like just all see each other. And I would say, for those of you that just came on for the training, you know, you can just get the notes from me after the call. I'd say let's get the hot seat session initiated. And this is your first time, basically the hot seat. And the goal of it is like just to give everyone the opportunity to help each other. This is not just, you know, Bastiaan and the Q&A and me just giving answers. This is everyone collaborating and sharing, you know, each other's experience that you have from your own business. So if you have a question that, you know, whether it's personal or business, just drop a 1 in the Zoom chat, and then you can unmute yourself. Gianfranco, you can go first, brother.
Yeah, and this is like the kind of the question that I was mentioning to you on like private DM through Slack, but I wanted to get a little bit more context on this, because like I feel like this is a pretty important situation like with my business. So you know, because I'd love for you guys who are also on the call to chime in as well, because you guys are business owners. So basically like the situation that's going on is I have a sales team. I have 2 closers at the moment. And I've realized, and like, this is just my fault. It's like a really slap in the face. Like I have to take full responsibility over this, because I haven't been like as active with my sales team, like my appointment setters, since I've hired like managers to like watch over them, which like at least I need to be a little bit like watching over them. But I found out that for like the past month, what they've been doing is they've been taking deposits of $500 or more, and then enrolling them into the program, and then you know, our program is good, right? So our clients get like really like awesome results, and then they follow up with them with like three weeks or a month later, and then they collect the rest of like the payment, and then they label it as new cash, right? Because I don't give my sales reps recurring for a multiple amount of reasons, right? Because with a payment plan, I really do believe it's more on like the fulfillment side of things. If a payment plan follows through, and I also want them to like maximize like the new cash like on the first call, right? And I was talking to them yesterday, and like they were like genuinely like they saw nothing wrong with it, right? But I guess like what should be my response, you know, to this? Is this making sense too?
So you're saying like they took the 500 deposit in their bank, or what do you mean exactly?
No. So that they took and they put it into the business, right? Like it wasn't like they just took it and ran off with it, right? But considering that, yeah,
Yeah.
I only give my guys like new cash like on the call, right? And I've never done that before, where I take a deposit and I let them into the program. Like that doesn't make any sense.
Right. So you're saying like they reported it too late so they could get like the full 2K basically.
Yeah, so basically
Right.
what they do, right? To give you an example, and it's not always 500, right? But let's say like, you know, I'm a prospect, you know, I get in the call, they take $500 deposit, and then they let them in the program, and like 2 to 3 weeks later, when they're like super excited and like they actually see it's a great program, they reach out to them again, take the remaining balance, and then just like say, oh, new cash.
Okay. Okay. So basically, to summarize, they're not reporting it until they've collected, you know, a big chunk or everything, and then they report it.
So no, they report it as like 500 new cash, and then when they get the other remaining, they report it as new cash as well.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. And so like the wrong part is the second part, like they can't claim that 1,500, right?
That's what I think, you know, but I just wanted to hear your perspective on it as well. Like, is that like the right thing to do? Because when I first heard about it, my first initial instinct was like, you know,
Yeah.
if I'm not giving them recurring, like, why should they get that, right? Like, I could have my client success coach usually reach out to them and then collect the rest of the remaining. Like, I don't need to close it for that.
Yeah. I mean, that's one perspective, I guess, you know, as the first person on this call to share my perspective. I like, for me, it's important to like just motivate my team. Like, I really want to make them rich, because when you like just pay them well, like they're going to go the extra mile. And I think that this model that you're sharing could work, but I think also like every month just starts with pure scarcity, because like they've got zero coming in. Right. And so for me, when my sales reps close a deal, it wouldn't have closed in my eyes without him. Right. Don't get me wrong. Like some people love your brand so much, like they would have closed, but there's also going to be a lot of calls where they wouldn't have closed, and your sales reps do deserve, you know, that recurring. That's just my perception. And I mean, it mainly for me draws back to just treating them really well, making sure they want to stay with me for years to come. They want to grow into a leadership role, and they don't have to do those things too behind my back. Right. Because, you know, there's some reason to do it. So that's just my perspective. I don't know if anyone else want to share their perspective, but that's kind of the way I look at it.
Yeah, I would say definitely if the sales reps are reaching out and collecting that cash, and they also close the revenue, like I always like to pay them on stuff I like them having future revenue coming in, because, well, if you have a sales rep and they've got 3 more months of payments coming in that they've already sold, and now it's just like a matter of time until it's all collected and they get paid on those next payments, then you got the golden handcuffs where they don't want to leave. Like they're not going to leave because they don't want to walk away from their future earnings. So I think you're kind of like creating a environment for your sales team where they're like, well, maybe we should, you know, work somewhere else, because, you know, they're going to pay us better, and we're just getting paid for a little bit of it, not all of it. They're going to probably feel a little, like, I don't know, I can't think of the word, but like, they're going to be bitter over it, I think.
Yeah, and I do pay them like a lot for I pay them 15% for like new cash. It used to be 12.5% new cash plus like reoccurring. But I changed it. But maybe I can change it, you know, back, or even keep this, because the thing is, it's like the reason too why like I wanted to ask this and like not take action like right away is because it's working really well. You know what I mean? Like, so like I'm really like considering just keeping it, but I think the main issue here is just on my end, where it's like, how did I not know this before? You know what I mean? Like,
well, yeah, but if they're not being honest with you, because then that means they're secret. They're like the passive aggressively saying I'm being taken advantage of, so let me figure out how to get it back. Like they're basically let me figure out how I get that money because they owe it to me anyway. This is what they feel like. But I would do this. What I would probably do if it's me, if you want to incentivize new cash, I would pay more on new cash and less on the recurring, but pay them on both. So they get like more of an incentive to collect more upfront, and also incentivize your customers to pay more upfront. Like we have like a payment plan option where if you pay in full, you get like, let's just say it's $10,000 for the program. If you pay in full, you get 8K, or maybe it's 7K. You get 7K if you pay in full, or it's, it's 5K down and then 2,500 a month. Something like that, where the payment plan, like they have to put a big chunk down. And it's not that much more to pay it in full. But if they do the payment plan, it almost doesn't make sense. But for some people it does. Most people just pay in full. So incentivize your customer to pay more, and also incentivize your sales reps to get more upfront, but still pay them. I would still pay them on the back end. So maybe it's like 15% new cash and like 10% on recurring or something, or 7% on recurring, or whatever you think, I would still pay them on it.
Yeah, I would just sit down with them, man, and just like ask them, what would motivate you guys and have you see this business as your baby? Right? Like that's a question I always like to ask. Like it's a question I've asked to any executive I have on my team, my partner at appointmentcenter.com, because you want your guys to be reliable and not do things behind your back. Right. So for me, that's a very valuable but yet simple question. Like, what would compensation wise have you see this business as your baby? Like to me, that's one of the best questions I've ever come up with, and it's a super simple one, but yeah, it's a very powerful one. So that's what I would do, because you could like come up with all these solutions, but if you don't know what they want, then maybe it's not even the right solution. So that's the best thing to do in my opinion, and what I would do in your situation better. And it's like kind of just asking for feedback, right? Like just like you ask your customers, hey, what can we do better in the program? And then that's exactly what you're going to implement, right? Like same with your team members, like, hey, what would you like to see compensation wise so you're more motivated? Or are you already motivated, right? Maybe they are, but we have to ask in order to know. And then once we know, we can, apply the right solution. So that's what I would recommend.
Okay, thanks guys.
100%, brother. Okay. Let's see, Mr. Florian. You can go ahead.
Yo, bro. So just that I call with somebody, and he at the moment in the Netherlands he's making a big platform, and he's making like a platform where you for Amazon coach, YouTube animation coach, high closing as an example. And he says, guys, he wanted to do a collaboration, and then he delivers the student. So he's doing appointment setting, the sales call. He just delivers a student to you, and the only thing you need to do as a coach is do the program. What is a really fair amount? To give him, like you will get 30% for giving us a student, and then we will do the program. What do you think is a fair percentage?
Right. So you would be basically the YouTube coach, and he would send you a client, and you're asking, what should we compensate him for sending us clients?
Yeah, correct.
Well, I would just like look at what you'd pay out referral wise and take that as a baseline. If it's a very powerful partnership, well, I'd probably just do 20%. Yeah, like I wouldn't eat too much in your margins, but again, like it depends, right? Like on how strong this partnership would be for you. So I would like just ask him, how many clients can we expect? And then based upon that, like we can come up with a percentage.
Oh, yeah. And then if he can do many clients, then you give him how much? 20% or?
I mean, it depends. I always like to base it on people's goals. So I would just ask them, like, as a partner, what would be your goal to make from this passively? Right. And how many clients can we expect? And you can see if the percentage would make sense and if you can align to his goal. And if it's not, then I wouldn't spend too much time on it. Right. Because you want to make sure that if you do put time and energy into this, is a partnership that's worthwhile. Because a lot of people come with ideas and opportunities. Trust me, guys. Like I get a lot of messages too.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And I said respectfully. So you want to like try and gauge quickly if it's worth your time or not.
Yeah.
And then from there, just otherwise just on your business.
Thank you, bro. So he was like, what were the questions? How many clients can we expect?
Ik zou graag hoeveel klanten kunnen verwachten. En
yeah, I would just ask, just how many clients you can expect, And if it's like one a month, then you may as well just, you know,
Yeah, skip it.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I just saw, I think we have the same glasses, bro. It's something, yeah, it's something completely else.
Yeah, a little question,
Thanks,
bro.
bro.
Little question.
Sorry.
I was thinking about like, yeah, maybe you also need to make sure in refunds. Like sometimes 1 in 30, 1 in 35
Yeah.
refunds. So we thought,
Yeah.
okay, don't want to cut too much in your margins. So I was thinking, okay, maybe 30% for him. Like it's like 10% appointment setting, 10% sales, 10% marketing. So you can calculate it.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? Like those topics are worth diving into once you can conclude this partnership is worth like setting up the logistics for. So try
Yeah.
to gauge that first, and then like I would dive into those questions.
Okay, and then maybe just try it for 1 month proof period. Right.
You can try, and then like you can see how many clients you can get from it. And then from there, like develop it. But I wouldn't like prepare, you know, tons of things because it's just gonna take you away from the main thing.
Thanks, Bastiaan.
Thanks, Boris.
Yeah,
Thanks.
100%, man. No worries. All right, team. Let me know if you've got any questions. Just drop a 1 in the chat. Mr. John Franco, go ahead.
Yeah, so I have another follow-up question as well. So you know, for those of you guys who have like sales teams and whatnot, like how do you, I guess like the question is like how do you like make sure like they're doing a good job, right? But also focusing on like, you know, the things that like I guess like a CEO is supposed to be focusing on. You know, so maybe things like my last question, like it doesn't happen like on a regular basis, and I'm like very like dialed in, but also not like 100%, because that's why I also like I hired other people to do that job. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're asking like how to hold the sales team best accountable to ensure they're doing everything that they should be doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, I would say like number 1, have a sales manager and hold the manager accountable. So instead of like doing 20 things, you're just doing 3 things, which is holding the manager accountable and holding them accountable as KPIs and, you know, the metrics of the company, for instance. So that is the preferable route and what I would recommend. And then from there, like making sure you're creating systems like a scorecard, a daily scorecard, a weekly, a monthly one, and just having an overview of the numbers. Honestly, like for me is everything. So having an overview of your scorecard, having an overview of your reps' calendars to make sure they're full. But then again, like to kind of circle back to your question, like how can you make sure? I would just make sure that you have an end of the day report for them where you ask them if they've done all the things they should be doing, and then have the manager double check, and then just have that process happen twice a day. And you double check the manager, and then, you know, for like 99% of the day are doing the things that they should be doing.
For those of you who have implemented the sales manager role, when did you, at what point in the business did you guys bring that sales manager on board?
It's a good question. Like for me, it was like when I was just doing way too many meetings with the sales guys. When I had to start and create structure, right? Because basically a manager is a full-time role, because you're doing one-on-ones with each salesperson, like not necessarily every day, but when needed, you're holding them accountable. You're giving them feedback on their calls, and, you know, then there's 2 other things. So for me, like it was really when, I guess the cliche of when it hurted in my time. And then from there, like I just decided to hire a sales manager. But best thing to do with a manager, so like just first try and see if you can promote someone into like a leadership role instead of like a separate hire from like the outside.
Yeah.
And if that's not a possibility, then I would like look, you know, kind of on the outside.
Yeah. I have this limiting belief around, I mean, I really want to train up the person that I think is going to be my sales manager, so that he can actually coach the other guys. Because I mean, I just think that you have to be really fucking good at sales to be able to watch a sales call and point out, you know, 5-10 things like I do for my sales closers, right? I mean, I don't know, I think there's an element of timing for a person to get there. And I do one-to-ones with my closers like every day, and sales huddle and all that stuff. So like it hurts already, but I still don't think like he's at a point where he can do I mean, he's never gonna, maybe I'm expecting too much from him, right? I mean, you have to kind of let go of the idea that he's gonna be able to coach the closers as well as I can, but I don't know. For me, it seems like an element of timing in there.
I mean, it depends. Like, is going through a few potential mistakes and having all of your time back more worth it for you, or is having control of everything and still spending like multiple hours a day on it more worth it for you, right? Like, that's kind of a question you have to answer. And
Yeah.
based on that, I would make a decision, because I can tell you, like, it'll never feel right
Yeah, for sure.
already. It's very much a cliche, but it's like, is this more a thing that is on the person that I'm thinking is maybe not a good fit? Like, is it most likely them, I just don't think they're ready, or is it me? And I like, as you're saying, like, am I expecting too high, right? And so if you see someone that is coachable and has the potential, I'd say it's definitely worth, like, trialing at least and seeing how they do, because you've got nothing to.
Because I'm guessing you also don't expect the sales manager, like in these coaching sessions, to. I'm guessing it's more like logistical things, like, oh, you shouldn't have taken this deposit, or maybe you should have, this is how like you frame this deposit. Because when I do sales coaching, I'm like analyzing them on tonality, body language, fucking, like everything, right? Like how to, how they should have handled this objection. Like, I'm very, very strict. Like obviously I want them to give their own spin to things, but I'm like I'm going very deep, right? And they find them extremely valuable, and they're super coachable, and I love my sales team. But maybe I just need to expect that these sales coaching sessions with the new sales manager are going to be more like logistical, like, you should have, this is how you pitch the offer, and this is how you pitch, like, not as like nitty gritty, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, what is your, what are your reps you're closing rate? Do you know?
Yeah, they're closing around 40%, 35-40%.
Yeah, dude, just get a manager. I mean, that's an
So
amazing.
they're very good. They're very good, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
like,
I really
you don't have
train
to.
people up.
Yeah, and like, you don't have to pay manager like a lot or something. Just it's like those things, right? Like, making sure the commissions are all checked and it's actually sold from them. Making sure like, it's all counted up and the refunds are deducted. It's making sure like that this new person is going into rotation, that this person is being onboarded, and like, you just get so much time back as a biz owner. And I think like that improvement thing is good, but how many reps do you have right now?
3.
Okay. And you said that you see one of the 3 potentially like going to a leadership role?
Yeah, one for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
And I've already spoken to him about it. He even does a bit of coaching for my business. I mean my program. So he's fine for it. But yeah, it's because I'm spending literally 3 to 4 hours a day on a good day on the sales manager role, analyzing calls, having one-to-one sales training, and then the sales huddle, then speaking with sellers, like all this stuff, right?
Yeah. Do you think you could bring in more students and serve more students if you win those 3 to 4 hours per day back?
Yeah, for sure.
So that would be more valuable for the company, right? And I would always do what's in the best interest of the company. And I believe that if the only thing is the refuse, dude, just teach it to someone. Like, how valuable would that be? Right? Like, at one point you're gonna have to do it anyway. And like, for example, your vision, as I know, is 500K per month. Well, I don't think you see yourself like still manage it all the way up to 500K per month, right? Like, you're needed somewhere else, so you can actually move to that point. So it's a decision which the quicker you make, the better for the company.
Yeah. And the sales manager would still be taking calls, right? So it starts as a part-time thing.
Yeah, like, for example, my sales manager, I just asked him, can you still take calls? Because if you're like fully booked out, and if the sales manager drops off, like, that's a bit problematic for the company. So let's say that would be the case, you're fully booked out, just keep them on, but then have them also hire a new person. So like the capacity is being handled and he can just manage full time. Right? Because when you're managing like 2-3 people full time, that is, I'd say 2 people, not necessarily super full time, but when you're like at 3 people, and let's say you're going to implement a triage stuff, that is definitely a full-time job, right?
Yeah.
But you have to like make decisions based on your vision and also in the best interest of the company, right? So the vision is 500K per month. Company interest, well, Jamie, 3 to 4 hours back, we can actually add another 100 to 200K per month, because now you have the creative energy and time back as well, right? And that's far more valuable in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%.
Like,
But
you
don't
kind
you think there's also, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, now you kind of just outweigh maintenance activities, reviewing calls versus like heavy growth activities. So it's
Yeah.
like, which one do you want? One, you know, that's obvious, right? Like you're definitely going to want to go ahead and focus on the 3 to 4 hours that you can win back to further skill.
Do you think there's also value though in the sales manager? And I'll finish up here, guys.
Yes,
appreciate
any
it.
questions?
But,
I know.
do you think there's also value in the sales manager being in the trenches still? Like even if it's just 1 to 2 calls a day, just to really keep that sales guy, I mean the sales manager on his toes.
Well, I mean, does everyone in the sales team right now respect each other?
Yeah.
Yeah, then I mean, if they already,
We have a great culture like that. That's one thing I'm very proud of in the
yeah,
sales team.
and that's amazing. So I mean, in my opinion, would it be necessary? But if he's noticing like a lack of respect or something, then just be like, well, just jump in the trench and show him how it's done. But again,
No, but I'm saying like taking his own calls, not having to jump on someone else's leads, but just taking his own calls, like maybe because George told me that he still does this, right? Which
Yeah.
I thought it was a good idea, right? The fact
Yeah.
that he still takes a bunch of calls because he wants to, like he in order to coach someone, you still have to do the thing you're coaching about every once in a while. At least.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but it's like kind of the same thing, right? Like what is more valuable for the
Sorry, not
manager?
George. Logan. Sorry, Logan. Your sales manager.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like the same question, right? Like, what is more valuable? Is it my guy taking 2 to 3 calls per day, or is it actually polishing all 3 of the reps and making sure they bring in more sales, right? So again, like it's kind of a decision based on division, company's interest, and not like necessarily his activities. Which one is better, if that makes sense?
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. 100% brother. All right. Mr. Chat, you can go ahead.
Hey, how's it going?
So,
yeah,
brother,
so
the 2CC man. Looks nice.
what's that? Oh yeah, thanks, man.
Congrats.
Pretty cool. Thanks for the help. Yeah, so I've been having a little bit of trouble lately with my EA. Just like it's something I've kind of been just ignoring in a way of like just letting it alone. But then kind of lately we had a little bit of conversation about it because like we've been, retooling our business to start trying to do a challenge, and that's about there. It's taken a lot longer than what I thought it would to get it set up. And part of it's probably because of the way he helped kind of manage some of the pieces of it. But he's got his own agency. When he came to me, kind of has like his own agency with a handful of clients. And we had a discussion about, well, help me get our sales up to where we were before, or like maintain what we're at before. When we exceed it to a certain point, then I'll give you like pay increase. When we get to this point, we kind of like made different milestones and talked about like he would drop his clients and then his goal of making 10K a month with me. But I didn't want to reward him for business we'd already been doing prior to him coming on and just be like, hey, here's a big paycheck for you because we're doing well. I want him to earn and show me he's a valuable team member versus like just kind of like coming along for the ride. So but what happened is like I've been including him in some other masterminds I'm in just to get like some of the training so he can help me implement it. But then he's been going in and actually coaching some of their clients and taking them on as his own clients. And so he can make extra revenue. I mean, he has to pay his bills, I guess. And that's probably, for him, he's like, oh, I just need to pay my bills. But for me, it's like, it's kind of like, if you invite someone over to your parents' house and they go in the garage and take off with your parents' car and go drive it around, it's like, that's kind of like unethical in a way. It's like, that's not the purpose. You're there, it's not for you to be out for yourself. It's for you to take the information and apply it. Right. So we had a conversation about that. And, I just mentioned him, I said that this mastermind, they're kind of like, they actually put a stop to people posting in their group. And he wasn't doing this, but some people like posting links and, promoting their own stuff. And when I heard him say that, I used that as kind of like the opportunity because he heard them say that too and saying, hey, look, I mean, they're getting on to people for poaching their clients. So make sure you're not doing that. Like, and he's like, all right, I'll quit doing that. And, but I just don't know what that means for like the future going forward. Because he's also investing in some of his own masterminds to start learning new skills. And so he can grow his business. But if he's planning on growing his business and investing, tens of thousands of dollars in his own self, then in one way that can benefit me, but if he's planning to really grow his own self, then like, what does that say about the future? Should he just be really focusing on my company and our goals and our team and how to utilize the resources we're already investing in versus like kind of like going out and finding his own path? You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%, brother. It just sounds like it's kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and it's either 2 foot out or 2 foot in. So I would just have a conversation with him where you can expect his full commitment and loyalty and dedication and exclusivity to your company. And if you do that, then it's just a no, because then it means you can't build on him if he's 1 foot out and 1 foot in, right?
Yeah.
So that would be my, advice to you in regards to your EA, because then when he's 2 foot in, like, you'll probably not have any problems because, like all those 4 traits that I just mentioned. Because I don't think it's like a lack of incapability, but rather a lack of commitment, which results in, things just not being done properly.
Well, one sign I look at is if he's taking action to make sales, like he's actually closing business for himself. Maybe he wants to be, and he came from like a business where he had a sales business. He had a small sales team and managed that. And maybe he wants to be more doing sales versus like support stuff. I don't know, if that's what gets him.
Yeah, no, and that's a good thing you're mentioning, but that's exactly what like I would bring into that conversation. Because like, okay, hey, great, if we're 2 foot in, what would you like to do? What would your vision be? What's like kind of the dream role that you want to work towards? But if look, you want to do your own thing, then I need to know, because then it's not going to work out. Right. So I would say that topic would occur based upon like him saying, yep, I'm committed, I'm going to do this together with you until like the end of it. And otherwise I wouldn't have that conversation with him.
Yeah. Because
you just need commitment before anything else. Like, if someone is not reliable, then there's no reason to build on it. Is what I found, So I would just have like a tough love conversation with him, and just straighten out the commitment and just be very transparent with each other. And then you can like talk about like the dream role, what you like to do. Maybe like we put you in the wrong position, right? But just first the commitment aspect. That's most important.
Yeah. Okay.
If anyone else wants to chime in, feel free to. But that's what I would say.
Franco had a comment in there, didn't he? So I appreciate for sharing this. A similar thing happened to him too. Action over words.
Yeah, man. Working with people is biggest blessing, but also sometimes the opposite, right? The biggest curse.
Never boring.
I'm curious, Chad, if I can ask you, because I know a bunch of you guys have EAs. I don't have one in my business yet. What are the main roles? What's kind of like the main thing that an EA brings to the table?
Kind of taking off that busy work, all the projects where you're like, I've done this before, I don't need to do it 100 more times. Like, have them manage things that are, tedious, creating documents or communicating with different team members, kind of project management in a way. In some cases, keep on the top of the numbers. And I find like a lot of it's like a big part of it's taking off the load of team communication too. Just kind of, if you only have 24 hours in the day and you need to sleep 8 hours and then you need some time for yourself, then if we don't want to work 20 hours a day, then kind of take a load off.
So it's kind of like a head of operations more than an assistant, right?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. It's like, yeah, it'd be like an office manager type of a role, like whatever they would do.
But let's just say you have, like, for example, a sales manager, right? And the sales manager speaks to the sales team. Then let's just say you have a setter manager speaks to the setter team. Let's just say you have a fulfillment manager, right, for the coaching. What would the EA do? Like, just speak to the managers?
I don't know. That'd be a question. That's a more complex team than what I have. So maybe Bastiaan could speak to that, because I don't know.
So your EA just speaks to all departments without having a head for each department.
Yeah, we have a pretty small team. It's just, we have like external contractors, like a couple. So we have some copywriters. We have like a funnel designer who helps with some things. We have a person that helps build our automations. And then we have just the setter and the EA and myself. So I've been doing all the sales, and rather than growing out a sales team right now, we're going to try doing a challenge and see if we can get the sales coming in like one big sales day a month out of a week's worth of activity and then a month's worth of promotion versus like every day it's like grinding, sales calls and setting and all this stuff. So we're trying that and see if we can keep our team lean and highly profitable versus complex and, versus adding complexity.
Sure.
See if we can beat the control, the control being, maybe we run it, 70 to 85% profit with a setter and a closer team versus maybe more profitable and more sales volume with less people. So, but I mean, that's where I'm at. But like, if you have your team you have a pretty well built out team, it sounds like that, like what would they do? It would probably be more of
Not quite yet, but
Oh.
yeah, I'm just wondering. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
So I don't know that. I don't know exactly, but yeah, maybe someone else or Bastiaan can tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, your question was like, what does an EA kind of do, right?
Yeah, I just don't see, like in my business, I wouldn't see like a need for an executive assistant.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's kind of like, just to give you an idea, it's basically what Yap does. It's account receivables, making sure like people are paying their installments, if not creating like a custom solution. It's updating the revenue tracking sheet. It is just, for example, like those tedious things, like I just applied, or Yap on my behalf applied for an American Express card. He's creating a custom system for me. So it's kind of like someone that can do sort of it all. That's in my definition what an EA is, but it started off differently. It's kind of like those things you know you need to do, but you don't want to do, is what you give to an EA.
Got it.
Yeah.
Because Yap started off as a client success manager as well. And then essentially he just couldn't do both. And then
it was kind of CSM to COO immediately was his growth trajectory. Because I first had Katie, who was my previous operations manager for Mirror Consulting, and then Yap. Now he's the COO. Yep. Cool. All right, Jamie, I see you put one as well.
Yeah.
Or is that the question?
Yeah, man, I'm wondering, the sales manager, right? I mean, you brought in Logan, and he brought in his own systems that you hadn't considered, right? And you're constantly making references to like the fact that your sales manager, writes a bunch of scripts, and like they do a lot of innovative work, right? Is that what's expected from a sales manager, that you would upgrade to like from a closer to a sales manager? Because I don't see like closer bringing in that sort of operational knowledge. Maybe I'm wrong.
They could learn it. It depends. Like, you'll never really know until they do it, right? For me, what is most important in my sales division at the moment is that the meetings that we get are qualified, and that we can handle the capacity, that if we're booked out, for example, that okay, we now get another closer. If someone's closing rate is down, that my sales manager sits down with them and like helps them and see what's happening so we can solve it. So it's very situational and very necessity based, instead of like a bunch of random things, which is busy work and doesn't move the needle, right? So like maybe that's the fear, but it's really just based on the bottleneck of the company. And mainly for us right now, especially at appointmentstarter.com, that's sales. And so like I just tell them like, hey man, this is the issue. So for example, to just give you like an idea of what our current issues are, I could just like read them out real quickly, is that number one, the call outflow from triage to closing is not enough. We have 2 tree that's filled and 1 tree that's open in terms of capacity. So let's get another triage guy. So boom, you'll hire like another triage guy, train him up, onboard him, make sure it's performing, is in rotation, can take calls as soon as possible, right? So it's also like kind of those things that are very much based on, the bottleneck of the companies and just being a problem solver essentially with you in that department. So that's in my definition, the sales manager. And of course, like you can have a job description, but it doesn't really matter if the things on the job description don't move the needle. So yeah, man, I hope that makes sense. I wanted to like just keep that as simple as possible, but that's what.
For sure. And they start off managing the setters as well, right? You didn't bring on a setter manager until what specific point?
No, I've got like a closure manager right now, and then I've got like a setter manager, and like they're just managing their own divisions.
Right, but you started off with just a sales manager managing setters and closers, right?
Yeah.
At what point did that shift to closer manager, setter manager?
Once I found someone that was the right fit for setter manager.
Okay.
Which is George. And yeah, like, because you think that, and I taught this too, like hey, cool, the, setter team is booking calls, great. But then you realize actually how much opportunity cost there is because there's no accountability. There's no improvements being made. It's just like the same day-to-day thing. And the manager is there to like just basically throw fuel on the fire all the time, accountability, raising the standards. And that's kind of the way to perceive a good manager. Yeah.
I want to let someone go if unless you guys don't have any questions. I do have one final question. But if someone else wants to go. It's more regarding ads.
Yeah.
Because I know you have the remarketing booking a call ads. Mark and I are struggling to launch those because my account is brand new. I'm guessing I'll be approved soon. But I'm wondering because right now I'm creating the free course, right? And so by the time the remarketing booking a call ads are launched, I think I'm gonna already have the system built out for the free course. Now, if I'm launching as cold ads, the free course, right? And my whole thing is like no upsells, no pitch, no nothing, right?
Yep.
And then those same people are getting hit with a remarketing booking a call ad. I don't think that strategy works, right? So it's either you do remarketing booking a call ads and no top of the funnel cold ads, like you just do paid IG shoutouts, or you do a top of the funnel cold ad strategy with a free course challenge, and then you do the remarketing according to that. Like, hey, sign up to the course, you haven't signed up to the course.
Yeah, so here's what I would do, right? So like on active campaign, you have one core list, and then you've got like separate lists, right? So the people that would sign up to your free course, just have them like in a specific free course list. And then after 30 days, upload that CSV into the ads manager. And then after 30 days, I would go ahead and remarket them, right? So basically with ads, as you know as well, like you can just upload the email list, like a specific one, and then you'll basically specifically retarget those people. So that's what I would do, like not to waste impressions and money. So like I would just pass it on to Marco, and then like he'll keep an eye out. Sure.
But it's probably smart to first launch the remarketing booking a call ads because there's probably a lot of money there.
I was also going to say that.
Audiences, and then launch.
Yeah, you've got a big audience, man. So I'd most likely just emphasize on, like, I would just, you could do both simultaneously, but I think that, you're going to be booked out very fast, right? Which is a good problem. So I would just hit capacity and calendar with new warm ads.
Yeah.
And then once, like the calendar's full, hire more salespeople. And then once you're still doing the same thing, but you're not being booked out, then at that point, introduce the cold ads, right? But for now, just low-hanging fruit.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it. Super valuable call. I really appreciate you guys. So,
yeah, man. 100%, brother. I love this call. Cool. Okay, team. Anyone else has any questions? Just drop a 1 in the chat. We have 25 more minutes here. Marcus, my man, go ahead.
I mean, it's not really a question, but more like something that I'm currently doing. So we're getting another client success manager now onboarded, and she's like a client of mine who, she has a kid. She spends a lot of time home, but she never really pushed through with the program. And the thing is this, that her husband is actually one of our closers. So now they're a couple, like she knows a lot about closing. She hears a lot. She's now always in the trainings and all of that. And I just want her to take more, time with the clients and kind of checking the Airtable and being on top of like high risk clients, or that everyone is basically just on track. Now I haven't introduced her yet to like the community. I don't know. How did you do that back then? Because now I also feel, for example, I still do like the strategy calls when someone gets onboarded. And maybe that's a limiting belief, but I feel like if I don't do them anymore, it takes away value for people. So I don't know, maybe you can just share a little bit how that was back for you then, or I don't know, maybe someone is here who kind of went through that transition already.
Yeah. I mean, I would just help your current clients that you've sold and help with you. But the new clients, if you just set the expectation of like, hey, you're going to work with this coach in a strategy session, then you're not going to have any problems. It's just expectations, right? So that's like what I would do. So like you can transition out, because you can definitely do it without you on a call. If you look at me and appointmentcenter.com, Like I'm nowhere to be found in the delivery. But you know, you
Mhm.
have to face their brand. And that's all because like we just say we're gonna work with this person and that person, and Bastiaan's team is gonna help you, right? So that's what I would do. So kind of like just fulfill for the clients and help them, but for the new clients, pass into your sales team, edit your one sheeter, right? Like, and also how you market, just make it, you know, not one-on-one with markets, but more like with our team. That's what I would do.
Okay. And how would you introduce that person? I mean, now to the community, because they like, where do you cut the line, right? Because now I have like a Monday group call. I have like on Wednesday, we do like training and then practice calls and all of that, where I also like approve people. Okay, you're ready to get introduced or ready to, you know, reach out for influencers. And then on Friday, we have just, you know, my closers doing a training. So I'm not even involved in that anymore. But how do I, because everyone is in the same group, right? How do I, like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So how many hours per week are you spending on delivery right now? And how many do you want to spend?
So actually, like in terms of hours, it's probably per day. I would say like 3 hours, give or take. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's quicker, depending if they're like onboarding calls with new clients that I do, which are usually like an hour, sometimes faster. And then a lot of messages, DMs to get back to everyone. So yeah,
but
and if I do like 1 hour and I just do like chat support and get back to them, that's cool with me. Like I actually enjoy that. But if it's getting like 20 messages, it's just too much.
Yeah, I mean, you should outsource, but again, like to just ask properly. So on a weekly basis, how many hours go to delivery right now for you?
I would say like on average between 10 and 20 hours.
Okay. And you're saying you're doing the onboarding, the Q&As, tech support,
Yeah.
and also the battle plan calls, basically, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the battle plan and the onboarding call is like one. So I just kind of do that in one go.
Okay. So that's the onboarding call, basically.
Yeah. And then also I do like the connecting. So if someone hits me up, hey, you know, we need like closers, do you have someone? Like I like figure out who's the best fit. I check who can we introduce, who is a good fit, what makes sense, and then creating the conversation and all of that.
Yeah. I mean, I would just remove yourself from the tech support immediately. I mean, it depends because it's more like I can tell you, it's more a mindset thing, man. Like we think like the world's gonna, you know, gonna be gone tomorrow if we are off delivery, but it's literally like it kind of sucks in the moment. People are used to change, man. So like if you say, guys, we're not gonna be doing the Q&As anymore, and I mean, you don't even have to say you're not in the inbox. Like for example, in Miguel's slot, I just have Aiden and Yab working. If there's something important to me, they'll relate to me. But I haven't logged into that inbox for like the last 6 months, right? So that's pretty much what we do on the tech support Q&As. I would just give to your, you know, like someone in your team. And in the onboarding, I would just outsource that too. Like you can just remove yourself like just by doing it. Because like the thing is, it's more mindset. This is not like gonna impact your business negatively. Like one thing you can expect is that people will be like, oh man, that sucks, like what you were in Q&As. But people get used to it really fast. And for me too, like I just had to do it at one point, man. Like we were scaling like from 100 to 200 and 300. Like I was like, well, this sucks, but I got to do it. And then I did it and I realized like nothing really happened. People were just as happy, right? So if you want to do it in a comfortable way, like just remove yourself from the Q&As and tech support first and just do the strategy sessions. And then once that's done, you go ahead and you remove yourself from everything, right? So that's what I would do if I were you. But I would just go the aggressive route.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, right now we do like a light version. So I have like our executive assistant just checking in with clients. Before we had now the client success manager starting, and now I will have her do that. But yeah, so this way she basically opens the conversation, like how are you doing this week, and then they write a bunch of text, and then I just come in and get back to whatever they need help with.
Yeah, I the way I did it first, I put like I did the onboarding call, the warm up, and the Q&As, and then I gave first one Q&A to Danique, and then I gave the onboarding call to Danique, and then I gave another Q&A to Danique, and then I removed myself from the warm up call. That's exactly how I did it. But if I could go back in time, I would just be like as long as you trust the person you're gonna replace yourself with, I would just do it like this because that's the most important thing, right? this mastermind too, right? Like it's all around great people like Paulo, George, Yap, right? And it's the exact same thing. So that's what I would do. And just do it. So
Right.
yeah.
All right, I'm gonna do it. Appreciate it, man. Thanks.
100% brother. No worries. All right, team. If there's any more questions, just drop a 1 in the chat.
I do have a quick question, man. More on
Yeah.
the personal side. You know,
Sure.
obviously you went through a phase where you were very set on descaling things back, right? And essentially time, location freedom, like you were kind of tired of the grind and shooting for big rev numbers, right? Now it seems like you're back to that. Have your working hours changed? Like are you working a lot more now? Like are you putting in a lot more hours a day?
Yeah, it's a good question. Short answer is yes, I'm putting in more hours, and I realized it just had to do with my why and my health. You know, I shared on social media, and some of you may have read the post, some of you may have not, like about the Nick, right? Like I had a conversation with her about the future and starting a family, and she shared some doubts she had, right? Like, Bass, if you're gonna go to bed at 2, 3 a.m. and you eat 1 meal a day, you don't hit the gym, you don't take care of yourself, like I'm afraid you may die. I'm afraid you may die. And I'm not sure like if that's a future I want to step into, right? Because I just do everything for my business. Like I just wake up, caffeine, 10 hours of work, sleep. And so yeah, I had a conversation, and after that conversation, there's 2 strong forces, in my opinion, that can help you get anything you want in life, which is love and pain. And I believe love is a lot more powerful than pain, right? Like in the pain, we all feel that at the beginning, right? Like we don't have a lot of money, or we want to like prove someone wrong, or this or that. But then love kind of for me is the strongest one. And so for me, my goal right now is to become a future father figure, work into my vision, become more masculine, become a man of character and trait, and have good traits, right? So that's the force I have now. And then with that, like I now got motivated to work on my health and wake up at 8, 9 a.m., go to bed at 11 p.m. exactly, like which have been for the last 2 weeks. And I just feel far better. And as I feel better, now I'm working more hours. I want to skill. And I truly believe it was like a lack of why and a lack of taking care of myself. So it's not like I was kind of lying to myself. I was like saying, I don't want to skill because of X, Y, and Z. And perhaps there was some truth to that. Don't get me wrong. But that was a real root issue, and it's like really looking yourself in a mirror and coming to terms with like, dude, you got to fix this shit, because you have it all, but you could also lose it all. Right. So yeah, that's for me. Like you asked, how many hours are you working and are you scaling? And, this was your initial like thing you said, right? Yeah, it can change that fast, dude. If you get the right person by your side, you have to ride wide drive. Yeah, you'll just do it because you love it and you want to do it. And I think that's the big difference. Like I really want to wake up at 8, 9. And dude, it feels great. Like when you keep promises to yourself and you make yourself proud, like you're 100 times more confident. And you want to show up on social media and you want to make content, and all these things start to happen all of a sudden. But when you're not, like, I don't want to make content. I don't want to scale. I want to take a step back. And we always think it's like something in the business, but for me, my experience, as far as like I've been in the game, it's not. Yeah. So maybe not the answer you expected, but
No, 100%. And I align with a lot of those things. I feel like we as humans, we love to lie to ourselves and
yeah,
essentially complicate our lives and justify why, right?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's ego.
Can I ask about that a little bit more about this topic?
Sure, of course.
The why for me has come up a lot. Like, I've had my own business for like 20 years, and money is less of a motivator today than it was back then. And like you said, pain is a big driving force. Like if you get up in the morning, you're like, I don't know what I'm going to eat tomorrow. I better work really hard. But when your fridge is full, your bank account has money, and you have like you don't really want things like maybe you don't want a new house, you don't want a new car. Like the why is more complicated. It's more, it takes more thought and more work in my mind to figure out why do you want to work so hard and why do you want to make more money? Why do you want to, you know, and you mentioned like your relationship, and she says to you, like maybe she's almost saying, work a little bit less, spend some time with me, like take care of yourself, go to the, you know, she's saying these things. Part of that is like, well, if I do that, then you're basically in your mind saying either delegate more to my team and make sure they're productive, or work less, make less, be less productive. And you have to figure out that thing there. So then, I mean, for you really don't need money. Like you could probably quit working and you'd be fine for years, several years, right? Maybe 10 years, I don't know. But what is it for you that drives you every month to say, outside of like your relationship and your future kids and things like that, but what drives you to want to achieve big numbers when you really don't need to?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I've also felt like what it is to decline. Like even after, I've even felt what it's like to decline, you know, decline in the sense of health, decline in the sense of business progress. And it doesn't matter what number you make, you know, you either grow or, you know, as you say, you die. And when you feel the dying part, that hurts, you know, especially if you've built a reputation, people look up to you. And I truly believe it's in the nature of a man to, you know, any entrepreneur, to progress and grow. Because if you're not, then you're in a space where people are, and you see other people grow every single day, and you're like just kind of dicking around. And time goes over that too. That, you know, gets to you more day by day. And, you know, I started to feel like I was losing respect. And I was like, oh, I care about respect, but it actually does mean a great deal. You know, people respect you generally because of what you do. And I can say a lot of people do respect me, not because they ask, but because I earn it. And when I had like the decline in health and being present, she doesn't care about like how much money I have. Like we're not even married or anything. But when I was like declining in health, you know, I lost a little bit of respect, you know, indirectly for you. Still love you, but you know, I've lost your respect, and you're not present. You're doing this other thing, right? That's a little bit of respect. And yeah, when that happens, that hurts. So I guess to answer your question in the most simple way possible, I felt the pain of declining, and I didn't want to anymore. So I was like, fuck this. I can like be a little cunt and just cry about it, or I could do something about it. And, you know, especially after like the lessons I've been through, well, heck, I'm not gonna be a victim. I'm just gonna crush it. So I'd say that's a big one for me. It's a very simple one. It's not a deep one. Like I've got an accumulation of drives and whys, like, you know, my mom, my family, my, you know, my future wife, my little puppy. The times we live in today, you know, with like the dollar, I mean, just fiat getting screwed. So much fear in the world. I just feel like the accumulation of all these things, they drive me to just create certainty for the people I love, for myself, and to progress. So like, it's not just one sentence, you know, it's like an accumulation of things for me that
It
lead me
seems like
to-
almost so like spending time with your, you know, like not wasting time and putting more effort into your business competes with wasting time not spending it with your family. You know what I mean?
yeah, like at the end of the day, I regret how I spend my time, and that hurt too. So it's like these little things, you know, like not eating your meal, not hitting the gym, like spending your time the wrong way. And then the accumulation of that, it's like, well, what am I even doing with my life? You know, and I think you kind of have to go through that in order to understand that you have to course correct and push towards the right direction. Because we always already know what the right thing is, but just because we know it doesn't mean we do it, right?
Seems
And it
like
was
the answer is always leverage, huh? It's like build a better team, build a better system, have a better process, have a more successful business without as much of your involvement, so you can spend your time with your family and live your why instead of like pursuing your why.
Yeah, man. And it's you know, everyone's journey is very individual. Everyone's journey is very individual. You all on this call here, like you've got different whys. You've got different things that we all don't know of each other that do pain you. And I believe the opposite of that is also what creates the biggest blessings in our life. right? Like the bigger the pain, the bigger the reward. And the more you go through it, the more you get to have, and stronger you become. So it's like kind of like a video game, you know? But the thing is, like, I was also playing way too many video games. And I was like, well, fuck this shit. And yeah, it's like funny, you just change all the time. Like you're never just
Right.
one person and one identity, and you change all the time.
Sometimes the why is like, well, I had a boss when I was, I used to sell cars, and he said, you need to reward yourself sometimes. And maybe just buy yourself a nice little thing once in a, when you hit a goal. If you set a goal, you'll reward yourself, get yourself a nice something. And, but there's also this mindset of like Elon Musk, he lives in a $50,000 house and sold all his everything. Sold all his possessions. He's the most wealthy businessman in the world, maybe not on the planet, person on the planet, maybe the Saudis are, but like he's supposed to be the the richest man in the world. And if your why isn't to be like, hey, let me go buy my mansion or go buy my next Rolex or my car, it seems like, to me, it seems like that takes a lot more thought of like motivating yourself to away from material possession to like, what's the drive, like it's maybe it's philanthropy or it's helping people or, more. And I don't know, beyond that, like for him, it's like, well, let me build a bigger company to solve a bigger problem. Let me build the next world changing company,
Yeah, I think that's the thing, right? Like you give the power to what becomes your why. Because my why was different 2.5 years ago to what it is today. And it's not because of the thing necessarily, it's the emotional attachment to it. And so because I care really now about creating a future with Anik, I change. Like, I don't care. Like, I'll just throw everything away if I need to. And then 2.5 years ago, like it was for, and still is for a big part, the fam, like making my mom proud, getting freedom and all those things. And yeah, like, he sold his things, but I think that's the thing, right? Like you gotta have it to understand that it doesn't mean anything. And I think that you can like look at other people and the actions they take. And I think there's a lot of lessons in that, but like to truly feel that for yourself and to grow like through that growth spurt, you gotta have had it. Like I bought one Rolex and realized, wow, I wanted to return it like after the first month,
Not good with the Apple Watch. It's more functional than a Rolex.
Yeah, exactly. Like, dude, this thing is not even working. Like, I don't know how to use it. I just have it on my wrist, and it's
So
like
next
15,000 euros. And
next 60 days, are we gonna start seeing ripped bass again?
Oh yeah, man. I think I'm gonna have to like increase the wrist size of the Rolex pretty soon. But yeah, man. But yeah, like it's fascinating, right? Because it's business and it is a constant mirror you're holding up, and when you're ashamed to look at it, that's when you start to decline. And so you always got to make sure that. That's why I admire Andrew Tate for a big part. People call him narcissistic, but I just think the guy is just dialed in.
Yeah, I like him more now than I did when he was on social media, just because I actually see things that he has some pretty good points, especially when someone's trying to like tear him down. He has really valid argument against what they're saying against him.
Yeah,
but, like,
I don't agree with everything.
Stuff before,
Yeah, I don't agree with everything, but I do believe in what he stands for about like the youth and the system and a lot of the things that, people don't see. Like you're literally entering a system with school, like you're taking a 200K loan and then you're working a 9-to-5 job to pay that loan back for the rest of your life. And then you die. Like that's literally it. And when I told myself that 3 years ago, I was like, sure. But I mean, like you're still building a family and you're still able to afford food. I'm like, yeah, but a man can do so much more than that. You could do so much more than that. You're just entering a system and you're not even aware of like what's out there. And so like I do truly believe we live in a golden age, like John Franco, like 20-year-old, like doing 150K per month, me 23 doing what I'm doing, Marcus, like everyone here on this call, like it's insane. And then you've got people on the streets that are almost dying and have no money. And I truly believe it's like a lack of awareness. And not just that, also like a lack of, like, I feel that if you're born in a first world country, you're privileged. Like if you're born in a war zone or third world country, it's very tough. So, there's this cliche like, we're all born the same, we all die the same. I don't agree with like, being born the same, but what I do agree with is like taking responsibility and doing what you can with what you have. But yeah, man, I mean, there's so much shit in the world. It's like an endless topic. But back to the point, I do believe in his mission, and I guess that's why I, align with what he's saying. It's funny. I showed Andrew to the Nick once, and every time like I walk into the living room, like she's watching a podcast, and I'm like, hey, what are you doing? And she's just like always watching it, and I'm like just watching it once a week or something. But yeah, it's very, very interesting because it just is even a higher level of perspective, because you don't even concern with those things if you're just surviving. You don't care. You're like, yeah, please give me money. Like I'll, enter the system. But once you have like some money and you can see things more clearly, I think that's very intellectual, more transcendent thinking, which, we're all blessed to experience. Yeah, lots of crazy plays, man. So
Love that topic. Like there was just like I was just listening in. This was very, 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 very good. And I couldn't agree more with what you guys said. It's also something that I'm going through right now. Like what is the why, right? So it's picking up everything a little bit. And again, we haven't cracked the 100K yet, so the goal is not there like consistently. But it's also like, what is behind the things like on the vision board, right? What is behind like the 2 Comma Club award, or which is on the vision board, for example, right now, okay? Or what is behind like the beach home? Like what is really behind that goal, right? If you get it, then what?
Yeah, what's the next why after you get it? That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like what's behind it? Why is that even important, right? To begin with, right? Because I believe there's something behind that. And with what you said, Bastiaan, I think like growth and contribution. I think that's just natural, because also if you plant a seed in the sand or in the ground, like what's the natural thing that it's going to do? It's going to grow, right? So 100% agree with that. But it's I don't know, it's very interesting. And then also the business, it is just a mirror, right? It's just a mirror of yourself. You think you have a hiring problem, or you have like a team problem or something like that. If you really look at it, you just have like a leadership skill problem. So it comes back to you. It's like always on you. Like whatever, it's just a reflection of you shortcomings. So that's even why I love business so much. It's like the best personal development journey you can embark on, and it's very, very nicely rewarded.
That's really eye-opening, thinking about that problem in the mirror and thinking, well, it's my problem, it's my fault.
Yeah,
and actually taking ownership and then just fixing it right away instead of like waiting.
Yeah, 100%. I guess before we wrap up, because I have 1 more minute here. Yeah, there's one thing to learn about a why. Like it has to make you feel something. You can't just think of what is going to be my why, like what's going to drive me. Like it really has to make you feel something. Like if you would sit in a gym and you'd have your iPhone and you have a picture of that thing or person or whatever it is, like it has to be able to make you cry. Like for me, that's always been like a why for me. Like my mom, the Nick and Noko. Like for me, if I look at him and I'm like, just tunneled in on that, I just don't care about the rest. So, and we all have that person, we all have that thing, and that's the beautiful thing, right? And that's a lesson I learned, because I was like, what's going to be my why? Oh, it's going to be this mission to help 100,000 people. And even though like I love helping people, it didn't make me feel something. Like it's nice to say, but do you really believe in it? And that's the real question, right? Like, is that why you wake up? If it's a no, then it's not your why, and don't say it, but find something that is, and be truthful to yourself, because it's more of an emotional thing rather than actually what the why is. That's, I guess, a final thing that I wanted to say. And I hope it's valuable to you guys.
Love it. It was a great call.
Yep. As always.
Maybe the best call so far. I don't know.
Think so too, man.
One of the best. Yeah.
I agree with that. Awesome team. All right, Gianfranco, Mr. Marcus, chat. Great call. I agree. I'm going to end the call right now, and then I'll see you all in 2 weeks. Okay.
Sounds good. Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.